My first summer in Albania, they had a lot of super big thunderstorms. And that was super fun because I feel like we get good thunderstorms here in Utah, but I feel like the thunderstorms there were a lot bigger, and it was so cool to look out at our apartment and to see lightning go super close to our place. But I absolutely loved the thunderstorms there because they were huge, and there was downpours. And then the stinky river would get higher and get more stinkier as it goes. But I absolutely loved the rainstorms there. The lightning was a lot more often, and the rain. And then the snowstorms in Kosovo I loved. But I felt like we didn't get like super high ones. So I felt like they were normal for how we get here in Utah. But it was colder. But by far, the thunderstorms. I miss them. They were awesome. The weirdest thing I ate was like candied fig. Like the fig had been soaked in sugar water. There was one time in a lesson, I was on splits. And I was with a sister mission. It was like her first transfer, but she was super good with the language. Like, I wasn't worried about her at all. But we went to go visit this member that they hadn't seen for a while, or she was super less active, and for some reason, like the second we met this member, or I don't know if she wasn't active, if she was, but the first moment we met her, she hated me for some reason, and it was the most entertaining lesson I have ever been in, because sweet sister like lead the lesson, because it was her member in her ward. And so she would ask her a question, and the sweet lady would answer so sweetly back to my companion for the day, and then I'd ask a question, and it reminded me of the teacher off of Monsters University. Like, just her face, like she would look at me and she would start yelling at me, and I didn't know what I was saying that would make her mad. But this went on for like a 30-40 minute lesson, and there was a time when I like scooted closer to the sister I was with because I didn't know why I was making her so mad or what she was doing. But it was like a light switch. Like with me, she'd get super mad and start yelling. I'm pretty sure a couple times she brought Ronald Reagan into the conversation, and then the other sister would ask a question, she'd go back to like sweet talking and stuff. And then I would say something and she'd start doing it again, and she'd bring in like the weirdest stuff with it, and I was so confused. But then I thought it was starting to get funny, so I'd purposely ask these questions that I knew she'd like react weird to, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it was sort of very entertaining. And so we did that, and then I was terrified, and we ended the lesson quickly, and then we went out, and then they went back. The sister with her normal companion went back, and she never acted that way again. And so I don't know what it was, but she just hated me, and I've never been like worried that someone might like attack me out of anger before, and that was what was happening during that lesson. But it was sort of funny. That was like hilarious, and we always laugh about it, but it was absolutely terrifying at that time because I didn't know why or what was happening. Because I feel as a missionary, we are with the Spirit so much that I feel like, not that we become accustomed to the Spirit, but we become used to how the Spirit feels. And I remember it's obvious to know when the Spirit's not with you. And it was really precious when you knew the Spirit was with you even stronger. I remember my first transfer, we were teaching this little 8-year-old girl. Her mom was a member, and she wanted her daughter to take the lessons before she was baptized. So we went to a member's house. It was all members in the lesson. One of them was even in the Stake Relief Society presidency. Like, she was amazing. And they had never seen the restoration film. So I remember we watched it with them. And it was my first transfer, so I didn't understand everything that was being said in the movie, but I knew the story. But it was incredible because we started the movie, and then it was the warmest and biggest feeling came in the room of the Spirit. And it was absolutely incredible. And never in my mission, whenever I showed the restoration film, was the Spirit that strong. And I don't know why it was that lesson with that family, but I don't think I will ever forget it. Just that feeling of it and the smiles on their faces when they were watching it. They already had a testimony of Joseph Smith, but just seeing their facial expressions during the movie and just watching their smiles throughout the whole thing, it was absolutely incredible to see. And I remember walking away from a lesson, and my companion, my trainer, she was like, "Did you feel that in there?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it was so cool that we both felt it because we knew they were feeling it. And I know that was one of the first very, very strong spiritual moments in my mission. And I think about it quite often, and how anytime I think of the restoration film, anytime I watched it after that on my mission, I always thought of that experience, because it was a testimony builder to me, and just how the Spirit testifies very simply, but he testifies very strongly when he does testify of the truth. One of my big skills was just confidence that I gained. And not, like, in a way being embarrassed. Because I know, like, before my mission, I am shy. Like, I can't go up to a stranger and start talking to him. Before my mission, I couldn't do that. And even now, like, I hate going to the bank. Like, especially when there's cute guys there, I can't go to the bank. I can't do it. I'll go to the ATM, because then I don't have to talk to anybody. But before my mission, that was really hard for me. Just talking to strangers, whether they're at the store to help us or not, it was very stressful for me. And so going on a mission, you talk to strangers, like, that's how you meet new investigators. And I became comfortable with putting myself out of my comfort zone, because I knew that I'd be okay. Like, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. And I also became confident in it and being proud of what I was doing. I was never embarrassed to be standing on the street with the Book of Mormon in my hand, asking people to come to church. I was always super excited to do it. And I think that was something important for me to learn, because I've never necessarily been ashamed of the church or of my testimony, because I never have. It's just always been having that confidence as you do it. And it was really fun to be able to find that, because I think I still have it now. I still pray in public, because on the mission, you would pray at, like, every meal. In the restaurant, you would say your prayer before you eat. And that's something that I've continued to do. And before my mission, that was hard for me to, like, pray in public at the restaurant, because I was like, people are going to be watching me. Or even though there's a ton of Mormons here in Utah, like, it was always stressful for me. But now, like, I'm not ashamed of praying before I eat Cafe Rio at Cafe Rio, or saying a prayer at Eaters before I eat the food. Like that, I just became confident in what I believe, and it's okay to do it. Like, you shouldn't be embarrassed about it. So that was a skill that I think I realized on my mission. And another thing would probably be being able to live with someone with a different personality. Because before, I used to get friends with my same personality, and if there's someone at school that had a different personality or, like, tended to annoy me, I would just leave, and I could just leave them. But you can't do that when you have a companion. It's not that they annoyed me, it's just, like, different personalities. But I learned to love people because of the differences. Like, it was really, really fun with some companions to see their weirdness, like my weirdness, and how we would just tease each other for it, but it was totally fine. So I really liked, and it was something I really needed to learn, was just being able to live with someone who's not like you, and that's okay, because that's what makes it fun. Missions are hard. They're not easy. I feel like you can't prepare for how hard they are, because they're hard specifically for you, like in the ways that you need to grow the most. I remember for Kosovo, for some reason, all 6 months were so hard for me. Like, they were hard times, but they were also some of my happiest times. And then for a transfer, when I got back to Albania, was super, super hard for me, for different reasons. But something that was said in one of the blessings I got on my mission was to treasure your trials. And when I said that in the blessing, it was when I was in Kosovo, and it was like the peak of the hardness, and I didn't know why it was hard. Now that I look back at Kosovo, I don't know why Kosovo was so hard for me. I know why Albania, part of it was so hard for me, but Kosovo, I had no idea. But that part where I said treasure your trials really stuck out to me. I was like, okay, I need to. It was weird, like, being happy for your hard times, like, doesn't make sense in the moment. But I learned that every hard time you go through has the potential to be a sacred experience and to be a celestial experience. It was in Kosovo when I really understood and learned about the atonement. And the finishing part on learning it was those 3 months back in Albania. But it was really interesting how much I grew to know my Savior in Kosovo. During the hardest part of my mission was when I started to know who Christ was and know how he helps his people. And it's interesting because in Book of Mormon there's like a scripture that says how beautiful upon the mount where you, I'm butchering this completely, but it's like how beautiful are the feet upon the mount where they serve the Lord, or something to that effect. And because of how hard Kosovo was for me, but because of so much I learned and some sacred experiences I had, Kosovo is a holy land to me. It became a very sacred place to me. Even though it was the hardest, it's very sacred because it was there where I learned about the atonement the most. It was there when I realized I have my own personal Gethsemane that I have to go through, but Christ is the one leading me through that, because he's the master of Golgotha, like he's the master of the atonement. And so that was a very hard experience for me, but I would never take that back. If I could have a second chance and be like, I won't have that hard time in Kosovo, or those hard 3 months coming back from Kosovo, I would say give them back to me, because I know I needed them to learn from them, and I think about them all the time. But I know that my testimony is what it is now because of those times. So treasure the trials, even though they're super hard to treasure at first. But I really feel like every trial is a lesson it was a lesson I specifically needed to learn. And I knew that there was no other way I could learn it, and I know that God knew that. Something I miss a lot is just the missionary spirit. It says in the White Handbook, like, there's a missionary spirit about being a missionary, and it's so true. I don't know what it is, but it's just when you're a missionary, it's like you're not as worried. Granted, you don't have reality to worry about, which is a pain. But as a missionary, I just felt like everything would work out. Like, everything's okay. You had those 2 hours of study time you had to do. I think that set everything right. But that's the thing I missed the most, was just the spirit of being a missionary. And the second I got released and I was told to take off my name tag, I could feel the difference. And I cried. Like, I thought it'd be like an easy transition from going from missionary to not missionary, and just having that missionary spirit carry over. But it didn't. The spirit was still there. But I feel like a big part of the missionary spirit are the angels on the other side of the veil that surround you. And I could tell when I took off my name tag that they were like, our job's done for now. Like, good job, and see you when I see you. And I could feel that. So that's what I miss the most. And just really thirsting to read the scriptures. Because it was just, you could never get enough on the mission of reading the scriptures. Like, I couldn't. And there's still times like that, but it's just, it's hard to keep those 2 hours study when you get home. And you don't have to have 2 hours of study, as long as you make time to read scriptures. That's all that counts. But I also miss the people a ton over there. I miss a lot of my good friends I made over there. And I miss speaking Albanian a lot, because it makes so much more sense than English to me now, which is weird because English is really hard for me. But yeah, I miss like everything about my mission. I miss my mission president because he was incredible. But all the missionaries that I served with, they're pretty much all in Utah except for a few, so I can talk to them and everything. But the biggest thing I miss is the missionary spirit of being a missionary, without a doubt.